Hello, ladies and gentlemen. In this video, we are going to be setting up a asset from Battlestar Galactica, modeled in Lightwave. I've kind of done a really quick retexturing in Substance Painter, including all the UVs and all that kind of stuff. Not importing any materials, and you'll see why. So this is basically just to show how simple and easy it is to get stuff going within Unreal Engine, and how you want things to set up. So if you're coming from kind of a Lightwave perspective, like historically, people are like, I want some kind of like importer tool, so I don't have to think about all the different things that Unreal Engine does. I just want to use all the stuff that I know from Lightwave and just have stuff just kind of import on their own. That's all well and good for some people. However, you will find that unless Lightwave actually supports the kind of material hierarchy system that Unreal Engine does, that is actually kind of a limiting thing. So this is our base star. I don't know why it looks so dark in the viewport, but it looks okay here. Let's go ahead and just create a new level to drop it in. Call this just go into a new level. In Unreal Engine, levels are like scene files in Lightwave, so you can have as many scene files as you want within a given project, which is good. We're going to go back to base star. And let me go ahead and create a blueprint. Just create an actor blueprint. We're going to call this VP underscore. And we're going to just make it so a little bit wider here. We don't need as much of the Unreal Engine stuff. I don't know why that's weird. Alright. Components, and we're just gonna drop the base star in there, and we'll see that it is obviously just half a base star, obviously. So here, yeah, it looks okay. Alright, so it's just a weirdness, maybe the weirdness of the scale in the modeling viewport thing. So we're just going to duplicate that, and we're gonna just call this bottom, and we're gonna call this one top. And you probably guess where we're going with this. Just do go, something like that. So we have a base star as Baltar intended. So we have no lights in this level because it was just an empty level that we created without any kind of template. So we're just going to drop in a directional light. Inside the mesh. There we go. so we can see it. Alright. So, because we don't have any translucent materials on this base star, theoretically we could enable nanite. I don't have that on by default. Truthfully, this mesh is not that high poly. You know, tiny when considered like how heavy the actual Galactica model was, which is like 3 change million polygons, I think, in its day. This is like 80,000 or something. Okay, so next we're just going to create a little subfolder. We're just call this textures, and we're going to import all our texture data. Looks like everything's loaded. I'll probably edit out some of the weight there. So we're just gonna save everything, just in case we crash. I don't think I've crashed on this new machine yet. Okay. So what we have here, in case you were not familiar, is UDIM sets. All the UVs were created in Substance Painter, so they are not going to be the most ideal, but it doesn't matter. Just because I dislike doing UVs, and, you know, granted, most of that mesh could have been done with planar maps, but, you know, planar UV maps, really. Okay, so, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to create a new folder. We're going to call this materials. And in materials, we are going to create a material. We're going to call this m_base_star_master. And this is going to be the base material for the entire base star mesh. So here you can see that we have a small handful of materials, nothing too crazy. Basically just the different tones for the base star. And really the only reason why I did it this way is just so I could remember what was supposed to be what. You literally could actually have just done it, the whole thing is one UDIM set, and just painted in like the different areas. Again, this was like just a really quick and dirty for the sake of demonstration. So I think there's like decals and stuff like that I would have to get from the mesh, the original texture set, and apply to this, which can definitely be handled with a additional set of UVs. Yes. So in materials, go material editor, go to textures, and we are going to want to take, really, it doesn't really matter that much. I am actually looking for the light, what's it for? It's medium, so we just want these three. So here is just going to be our color. That's going to be our normal, and this other one is going to be a pack texture that I believe is metallic, roughness, and I believe this one is going to be ambient occlusion. I may actually not be 100% correct on that off the top of my head, but and this is going to be plugged into the normal channel. And so we have what looks like our material. The next thing we kind of need to double check, and this is something that I think we can group select everything and do. And I think it's disable RGB on everything. we'll find out. That's just because all these textures were, I believe, made linearly, and typically Substance Painter kind of likes a LUT applied to things. So, or you apply the Substance like an Unreal Engine or ACES LUT in Substance Painter when you paint stuff, so that you can actually adjust your stuff correctly, and everything should look reasonably okay once it comes over to Unreal Engine. However, this is not going to be the end of everything that we do here, because one of my texture sets, which may or may not have come in, I'm not seeing it, so let's go ahead and import the emissive texture for the windows. It's really more of a mask, it's not really the emissive. It's a mask for the emissive, and so we're going to drop this in here. And even though only one material has it, we're going to build in functionality for this that is accessible through all the materials and then can be toggled on or off. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do a lerp. I believe in Unreal Engine 5.2 lerps are actually going to be going probably not away, but you're with the new material system it's going to be a slightly different thing here. But we're going to have hold down 3 and click to get a color, hold down 1 and click to get a float, and I believe we want to plug the float into A, and the color is going to be our emissive. We're probably also going to want to throw a texture in here as well. So one of the things I'm probably going to want to do is type in noise, and I have long since created a bunch of noise textures. I used to sell them, but I don't anymore. We'll probably bring that in. And then we're going to multiply that by the color. So that we can have the noise be its own color, and we're going to plug this into the emissive color just so that we can see a result here. Alright, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a offset node. I'm going to plug that into here, and we're going to plug float here, and we're going to set like a value of like -1, and so that you can see that -1 is probably a little too high for this, but we'll see when we get it on the model. And we can set a bunch of presets. Basically it just makes it look like it's it has depth that it wouldn't normally have, just being a mask texture. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a static switch parameter. And we're going to give it a name as emission. If it's true, uses the texture. Oops. And if it's false, it's just going to have a float of 0. Okay. And So we can grab all these nodes, go way back here, through a comic box, and then call this mission. Just drop down a redirect node. Just try to align everything up here. And let's probably convert this to a parameter, call this color. We can do call that bump offset depth. And here we're gonna convert this to parameters. Call this color, and of course, decide to save while I was typing. We're gonna call this. I think it's. Inclusion, roughness, metalness. I think that's the order. And we're going to convert that to parameter. We're going to call this normal. We're not done here. Let's see if I have it. Okay, we're going to create a material function. Folder in here. Clear my search. And we're going to call a new folder. Probably horribly mangled that. I guess I did okay. New folder. We're going to call this MF for material functions and nothing else. And we're going to go to materials here, and we're going to go material function. And we're going to call this should it be normal intensity? Sure. And we're going to put a MF in front of it. And so here we're going to create an input function input, and this is going to be a float. So it's just going to be a scalar, and we're going to say it's going to be red channel. We're going to copy paste. Call this green channel. We're going to get rid of the one that added at the end. And we're going to paste again. And we're just going to call this intensity. And then here, we're going to do 2 multiply nodes. Just hold down M and click. We're going to multiply each node by our scalar value. And we're going to append, I guess they added the ability to do it all as one thing, so we're going to do it there. And then we're just going to drop down a float, set it to 1. That's going to be our blue channel. So basically it's red channel, green channel multiplied by a scalar value that's going to be then all appended together and set to out. The fact that that's reading the color blue is absolutely correct. That's what we want to see. And then we are going to go back to our base star material, and then from here we're going to type in, as long as I spell it correctly, doesn't matter. We'll just drag and drop it. There we go. Okay, so we're going to take a red channel. Oh, whoops. One last thing I need to fix. Doing it live, folks. We want to set our priority. So red is going to be 0. Green is going to be 1. And that is going to be 2. Save that. Back to our material here. Now our red channel's at the top. Green channel is number 2. And then we're just going to create a float value. And we're going to set that to a parameter. We're just going to call that normal intensity. Probably screwed up some spelling in there somewhere. I think I double clicked on something. And we're going to plug that in there. And so what that basically allows us to do is if we kind of look at our normal map here, if I change this value, say like 5, our normal map is going to be much more intense. And if, say, I set it to 0, it's not going to be there at all. All right, so default is going to be 1, so that it just uses the image map as it's intended. And generally that's enough, but I always like to add controls where I can. And let's make sure the default value for that static switch is off, and it is. That's good. I'm going to hit apply and save. We're going to go to back to our materials directory. If we click on that folder with the magnifying glass, it will bring us directly to where this particular asset is stored. We're going to right click on that. We're going to create a material instance. And so we're going to call this M base star material base star master instance. And so this is going to be a descendant material from the master material. And we're going to open that up, and that's going to give us all the different parameters that we set within the master material. So for example, we want to change the intensity of the normal map, we can just do that. Alright, generally we don't want that. Let's say we also want to have the emission show up. We can change bump offset, all that stuff. And that also gives us the ability to change the color of our emission and all that as well. We can also probably could have done this with another float. Let's say we wanted to like really glow or something. Shouldn't actually be showing through there, so I'm gonna have to put a clamp on that. I'm probably going to have to put a multiplier in there just to force the white value and black values to be correct. My guess is that the black in the texture is not actually black. Power node. I think default it's 2. Yeah, there we go. That's enough. All right. So now we just do that where we need to. We don't have need to have that emission, so in the base, so we're not going to have it because it's only one material where we need that, and that should be enough. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to just make sure everything is saved, because that's what heroes do. And we're going to bring up our model here, and we are going to create another Octane material instance. Not Octane material instance. We're going to create a normal material instance. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. This probably will not load in Octane due to the size of the texture maps. I am on a 4090, but this is a lot. It's a lot of texture data on in these textures. They're all 8K. Okay, and then we're going to find the light metal here. We're going to plug that in, and that's going to apply everything to the surface of the mesh. And save all. And we're just going to duplicate this. Medium hull, and that's the bottom one. Sorry, my display is actually quite far from me, and you can see that that texture doesn't actually align with that because it's technically a different UV, which is fine. So we will open this up. We will override all these specific textures, and we're going to call this. We're just searching for med, base star, should be correct. That's gonna be the normal. Now we should theoretically have a functioning texture there. And save all. And let me drop a skylight into here. And let me just move that out of the way. Skylight selected, so we're going to do specified cube map, and we'll just throw an HDR in there so we can kind of see what's going on. Windows dark metal is the last one, and this is going to be the one with the missing material in it. Just rename this real quick. No. And back here. Spaces, yep. going to save that, but we're going to have it has a mission. We're going to turn on all this stuff so we can actually see what it all looks like. Oh, haven't plugged it in. That would be why. There we go. So let's just here we go. And that is how to set up a master material pipeline very quickly. Obviously, I'm moving very quickly and didn't edit out my mistakes or anything like that. So you can see as we kind of pan by the windows or whatever, there's some parallax. We can reduce that number, say to like -0.5. Probably a little bit better, but you know, maybe we can do. There you go, 0.2. Just a little bit of parallax as we go by. And that is a very, very, very quick base star. We've been recording for 40 minutes, so I'm gonna... Okay, part 2. Why do we use material instances as opposed to just making everything a single, you know, like every individual material its own unique thing? And the reason for that is because we want to be able to make changes to this on the fly, and or add features that could theoretically affect every material in this particular chain. So, you know, we know from the show that this, you know, material on the top really isn't this white. You know, everything was supposed to look more metallic and all that than this seems to. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our master material. We're going to open this up, and we're going to drop down a multiply node, hold down the M key and click, and we're going to hold down the number 3 key and click, and we're going to make a white color that we're now going to multiply our base texture over, and we're going to convert that to a parameter, and we're going to call this color mult. And we're going to do something similar for the roughness value. We're going to put in a specular value. We're going to as well, so we're going to call this QR. And we're going to set the default to that to 5. And we're going to plug that into specular. We're going to take the roughness value, which I hope is the correct texture here, and we're going to add a float to that. And we're going to, by default, we're going to make that 1 because everything's going to be a multiplication of that. So the default value is the texture value. Metalness, for now, I'm going to leave that. If we decide to change that later, that's going to be fine. And we're going to hit apply on that. And now, if we go to the light color, light metal color for the hull, we're going to have our color mult option here. Gonna check that, and then we're just going to bring this value down until it looks a little bit more like what we're familiar with from the show. It might be a little much, but with the added specular value here, we can kind of change that however we want within a 0 to 1 value. Make it look a little bit wet. And then we should also make sure that we have Set our roughness value to a parameter, gave it a name, hit save on that. And we can very quickly kind of dial in how much roughness we think this should have. And that's pretty straightforward. And we can do that with any material. So if you remember in the previous video, I thought this stuff, the medium color here, was too shiny. So we're going to open up that material and we're going to change its roughness value. And then let's again start multiplying that just so we don't get too close to the color of the rest of the hull, but not too much darker. Our Nernies again. I was having trouble to really see like how bright they looked, to make sure that their colors were more in line, so we just go ahead and do that. Typically with things like Nernies, I might add like a little bit of, like additional color to, or something like that, just to help differentiate them, and all that. This was a much shorter video, so we'll see if I can cut this together with the other footage. Make it a chapter. Okay. Again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.